luxury boutique manager, humiliated and kicked out Melania Trump. But her return shocked everyone, confident that she was preserving the luxury boutique's prestige. Manager Helena swiftly dismissed the shopper she deemed out of place. However, Helena's certainty shattered when that same shopper, Melania Trump, returned with an entourage and a camera crew, setting the stage for an unforgettable and very public lesson in humility. The air inside Etoile, nestled on that infamous stretch of Rodeo Drive, perpetually hummed with an almost sacred reverence for the ridiculously expensive. Sunlight, meticulously filtered, kissed the pristine marble floors, reflecting off handbags that cost more than a semester of college. Helena, the boutique's manager, was its high priestess. Sharp cheekbones, sharper intellect, and an aura of absolute control. She was the gatekeeper, the final word on who belonged and who decidedly did not. Her tailored suit was as much a uniform as armor, shielding a pragmatism honed by years of curating this world of manufactured desire. This particular Tuesday felt charged. Maybe it was the relentless California sun, or perhaps just the usual undercurrent of anxiety that thrummed beneath the surface of such blatant wealth. Helena stood sentinel near the entrance, her gaze sweeping the polished expanse. Everything had to be perfect. A misplaced scarf, a fingerprint on the glass, a sales associate with chipped nail polish. These were cardinal sins in her meticulously ordered universe. Then, the glass doors whispered open, and Esichi walked in. Tall, undeniably elegant, shrouded in an oversized cream coat and those signature sunglasses that screamed incognito celebrity. The woman's heels clicked in muted rhythm against the marble as she paused, a subtle survey of the opulent landscape. Her gloved hand, impeccably manicured, of course, grazed a rack of jewel-toned silk scarves. To Helena, a finely tuned instrument of judgment honed by years of observing the nuances of wealth, something felt off. Not overtly wrong, but understated. In a place where ostentation was practically currency, this woman's quiet elegance felt almost subversive. Maybe it was the lack of obvious designer logos plastered across her attire, or perhaps the way she lingered a beat too long near the diamond-encrusted necklaces, her gaze thoughtful, not acquisitive. A prickle of something, annoyance, distrust, tightened Helena's jaw. Her internal alarm bells, usually reserved for teenagers with backpacks or tourists in flip-flops, chimed softly. She moved with practiced grace, a smile plastered on her face, but her eyes held a glint of steel. "Madam," she began, her voice smooth, almost silken, but with an underlying firmness, "we have a private shopping appointment commencing shortly. I'm afraid I must ask you to leave." The woman lowered her sunglasses, a slow, deliberate movement. Her eyes, the color of a winter sky, met Helena's. For a fleeting moment, a flicker of something, recognition, amusement, danced within their depths. Helena's breath hitched imperceptibly. Had she seen this woman before? Impossible. She would remember a face like that. "I assure you," the woman said, her voice calm, measured, a low melody that somehow commanded attention despite its softness. "I will only be a moment. I simply wish to browse." Helena's smile tightened, the edges growing sharp. Politeness was a tool, and she was wielding it with precision. "I understand, madam, but this is a private establishment. Should you wish to schedule an appointment, we would be delighted to accommodate you at another time." Her tone brooked no argument. This was her domain, her rules. For a heartbeat, the woman's expression remained unchanged. Then, without a word, a hint of a sigh escaping her lips, she slid her sunglasses back into place and turned, her heels echoing softly as she walked towards the exit. Helena watched her go, a knot of satisfaction tightening in her chest. Protocol adhered to, brand protected. But beneath the professional veneer, a tiny seed of unease began to sprout. There was something in the woman's quiet dignity, the lack of protest, that bothered her. It wasn't the reaction of someone used to getting their way. It was the stillness of a deep ocean. The incident faded quickly amidst the usual flurry of high-end transactions and demanding clientele. Helena, Ever the meticulous manager, focused on ensuring a new shipment of Italian leather goods was displayed flawlessly. The lighting just so, each item whispering tales of craftsmanship and exorbitant price tags. She oversaw every detail, a conductor leading an orchestra of silk and diamonds. But that evening, as the city lights twinkled outside her apartment window, the image of the woman lingered. Her poise, that unsettlingly calm demeanor. It was as if the woman possessed an inner knowledge, a quiet certainty that Helena couldn't quite decipher. Dismissing her with such swiftness, with such unwavering confidence in her own judgment, now felt premature. The following morning, the usual hushed reverence of Itoil was punctuated by whispers. Sophia, a young sales associate with perpetually wide, expressive eyes, approached Helena, her voice low with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. "Helena," she breathed, glancing around nervously. "Did you hear about the woman from yesterday?" Helena raised a perfectly sculpted eyebrow. "What about her, Sophia?" She was already mentally cataloging a potential stain on the silk display and the slightly crooked placement of a jewelry stand. Sophia's eyes widened further. "One of the clients this morning, they said it was Melania Trump." The words hit Helena like a physical blow, a sudden vacuum in her chest. Her hand, reaching for a stray piece of lint on the counter, froze midair. "Melania Trump," she repeated, the name feeling foreign, impossible, on her tongue. Skepticism warred with a dawning, sickening realization. "Yes," Sophia insisted, her voice barely above a whisper. "They showed me a picture on their phone. It was definitely her. The hair, the eyes, everything." A cold dread coiled in Helena's stomach. Could it be true? Had her unwavering adherence to protocol, her self-proclaimed ability to discern who belonged, just led her to this? A wave of nausea washed over her. She who prided herself on her impeccable judgment had dismissed one of the most recognizable women in the world. She forced a dismissive air, a shield against the rising panic. "It doesn't matter who she was, Sophia," she said, her voice sharper than intended. "Rules are rules. We can't simply allow anyone to wander in without an appointment." But even as the words left her mouth, they tasted like ash. This wasn't just anyone. This was Melania Trump. The whispers intensified throughout the day, rippling through the boutique like a rogue current. Customers, their eyes gleaming with vicarious excitement, murmured amongst themselves. "She looked so elegant," one impeccably dressed woman confided to her companion, loud enough for Helena to hear. "I can't believe someone would treat her like that." Another chimed in. "I heard she didn't say a word. So classy." But you just know she was furious. Helena felt a vice tighten around her chest. The rarefied air of high fashion was built on image, on reputation, on the subtle dance of exclusivity and perceived privilege. A misstep of this magnitude, involving someone of Melania Trump's stature, could be catastrophic. That evening, doom-scrolling through social media, her blood ran cold. A vague, yet undeniably pointed, post was making the rounds. "Just witnessed a certain boutique manager on Rodeo Drive kick out one of the most famous women in America. Classless behavior in a so-called luxury establishment." The comment section was a frenzy of speculation, accusations, and digital pitchforks. While Etoile wasn't explicitly named, the writing was on the wall, in bold all-caps font. Helena tossed her phone onto the sofa, a knot of fear twisting in her gut. "It'll blow over," she muttered to the empty room. But the conviction was gone, replaced by a gnawing sense of impending disaster. The next day, the local news picked up the story. No names, no confirmations, but the implications hung heavy in the air, thick as the scent of expensive perfume in Etoile. Customers arrived not just to shop, but to gawk, their whispers carrying the sharp edge of judgment. One woman, clutching a designer handbag and a venti latte, leaned conspiratorially towards her friend, her voice just loud enough. "This is the place, isn't it?" Helena's carefully constructed facade began to crack. She clung to the hope that Melania Trump, a woman of such prominence, wouldn't deign to revisit the scene of such a perceived slight. She was wrong. So wrong. Friday afternoon. The boutique buzzed, a hive of luxury transactions. Sunlight streamed through the windows, illuminating the glittering displays. Helena stood near the cashier, her posture rigid, a forced calm radiating outwards. Then, the doors swung open with a decisive click. And there she was, Melania Trump. But this time, she wasn't alone. An entourage, sharp-suited security, a woman carrying a sleek leather briefcase, another radiating the unmistakable air of a publicist, flowed in behind her. Outside, the telltale flashes of cameras signaled the arrival of the press. The gentle hum of Itoil died, replaced by a collective gasp, a flurry of hushed whispers that echoed off the marble. Melania stood tall, an island of calm amidst the sudden storm. A perfectly tailored black dress, diamonds that winked with subtle defiance, an aura of unwavering poise. Her gaze swept the room, pausing for a beat when it found Helena's. No anger, no triumph. Just an unsettlingly steady gaze that made Helena's carefully constructed world feel fragile, about to shatter. Good afternoon, Melania's voice, clear and resonant, cut through the stunned silence. I'd like to look around now. Is that allowed? The question hung in the air, heavy with unspoken implications. Every employee, every customer, held their breath, their eyes darting between the two women. Helena's mind raced, desperately searching for a script, for a semblance of control. But her tongue felt thick, her throat constricted. All she could manage was a stiff nod, a gesture of grudging acquiescence. Melania moved through the boutique, her entourage a silent shadow. She didn't rush, didn't linger ostentatiously. Her gloved hand brushed against a cashmere shawl. Her gaze lingered on a display of rare gemstones. It wasn't shopping, it was an inspection, an evaluation, as if she were cataloging every detail, every potential flaw. The tension in the air was palpable, thick enough to choke on. Even the other customers moved with a newfound hesitancy, their usual air of entitlement replaced by a palpable curiosity. Then Melania approached the jewelry case. Her gaze swept over the glittering array before settling on a magnificent diamond necklace, a constellation of brilliant cut stones. She glanced at Clara, a junior sales associate who had always struck Helena as a bit too timid. "May I see this piece?" Melania asked, her tone polite but with an undeniable undercurrent of authority. Clara, surprisingly composed, retrieved the necklace with steady hands and placed it on the velvet counter. "Of course, madam." Melania studied the necklace for a long moment, then, without turning, asked, "What do you think?" Her question wasn't directed at her entourage. It was directed at Helena, who stood frozen a few feet away, her heart hammering against her ribs. Helena's carefully rehearsed pronouncements on luxury and style deserted her. She stammered, her voice barely a whisper. "It's a beautiful piece. One of our finest." The words sounded hollow, even to her own ears. Melania nodded slowly, her gaze still fixed on the necklace. Then, with a subtle nod, she turned to Clara. "I'll take it." A black credit card, sleek and understated, appeared as if by magic and was slid across the counter. As Clara processed the transaction, Melania turned back to Helena. Her expression was calm, almost serene, but her words landed like a velvet-covered hammer. "It's important, don't you think, to treat everyone with respect, especially when you don't know who they are?" The boutique went silent. Every eye was on Helena, who felt the blood drain from her face. The floor seemed to tilt beneath her feet. She opened her mouth to speak, to apologize, to offer some feeble explanation, but no sound came out. Melania didn't wait for a response. She gestured to her publicist, who produced a small, thick envelope. "This is for your staff," Melania said, extending the envelope towards Helena, a token of appreciation for their professionalism. Helena hesitated for a fraction of a second before accepting the envelope. It felt surprisingly heavy in her hand. Later, locked in her office, she would open it to find a check for a staggering amount, enough to provide a substantial bonus for every single employee. A gesture of quiet power, of grace in the face of perceived rudeness. Melania turned to Clara, a genuine smile gracing her lips. "Thank you for your help today. You've been wonderful." Then, with a final lingering glance around the boutique, she turned and walked towards the exit, her entourage falling into step. The photographers outside erupted in a flurry of flashes, capturing her departure. Inside Itoil, a stunned silence reigned. Customers whispered amongst themselves, their eyes wide with disbelief. Employees exchanged bewildered glances. Helena stood rooted to the spot, the weight of the envelope in her hand a physical manifestation of her humiliation. She had misjudged. She had been arrogant, and she had been shown with quiet, devastating precision the error of her ways. The boutique remained unnaturally quiet long after Melania Trump's departure. Customers eventually filtered out, clutching their purchases and the tale they couldn't wait to recount. The employees, still reeling, spoke in hushed tones behind the counter. Helena retreated to her office, the heavy oak door a flimsy barrier against the storm raging within her. Her hands trembled as she opened the envelope. The number on the check swam before her eyes. A wave of shame washed over her, so potent it felt like a physical illness. This wasn't just about her. It was about her staff, the people she was responsible for. Melania's generous gesture highlighted the magnitude of Helena's mistake, the contrast between her judgment and Melania's quiet magnanimity. Helena sank into her leather chair, the weight of her arrogance pressing down on her. Her mantra, "Protect the brand," echoed in her mind, now hollow, meaningless. The brand wasn't just about price tags and exclusivity. It was about the experience, the way people were treated within its walls. And the experience she had offered Melania Trump was one of dismissal, of disrespect. A soft knock on the door startled her. It was Clara, her expression hesitant. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. Helena managed a weak nod, though her throat felt tight with unshed tears. Clara didn't look convinced. "You know," she began, her voice tentative, she wasn't angry. "I mean, not really." It felt like she wanted to make a point, not humiliate anyone. Helena met Clara's gaze, surprised by the empathy she saw there. No judgment, no "I told you so," just a quiet understanding. A flicker of hope ignited within Helena's chest. Perhaps redemption wasn't entirely out of reach. "Thank you, Clara," Helena said, her voice thick with emotion. "And thank you for being everything I wasn't today." Clara offered a small, reassuring smile before slipping out of the office. Helena leaned back in her chair, the check still clutched in her hand. A decision solidified within her. It was time to rebuild, not just the boutique's image, but the trust she had so carelessly shattered. The following morning, Helena arrived at Itoil before dawn. The city was still waking, the air crisp and cool. As she unlocked the heavy glass doors, a sense of purpose, new and unfamiliar, settled within her. Her first act was to gather her staff. They assembled in the small break room, their faces etched with curiosity and a hint of apprehension. Helena stood before them, the carefully constructed armor gone, replaced by a raw vulnerability she had rarely allowed herself to show. "I owe you all an apology," she began, her voice steady but thick with emotion. "Yesterday, I let my own prejudices cloud my judgment. I treated someone unfairly, and in doing so, I let all of you down. That's not the kind of leader I want to be. It's not the kind of example I want to set." The room was silent, the weight of her words palpable. Helena continued, her gaze meeting each of theirs. "We have an opportunity to learn from this. Respect and kindness shouldn't depend on who someone is or who we think they are. That's a lesson I needed to relearn, and I hope we can all carry it forward." She placed the envelope Melania had given her on the table. "This check is for all of you. It's a testament to how well you handled yesterday, despite my shortcomings. You deserve this." A ripple of surprise and gratitude moved through the room. Clara spoke up, her voice clear and strong. "Thank you, Helena. I think we all learned something yesterday." Helena nodded, a genuine smile touching her lips for the first time in days. She wasn't perfect. She had made a significant mistake, but she was committed to making amends. Itoil wasn't just a store. It was a reflection of the people who worked there. And from that day forward, Helena vowed to ensure it reflected the values of respect, inclusivity, and genuine grace. As the employees returned to their duties, the boutique slowly filled with customers. Helena watched them with a new perspective, seeing not just potential sales figures, but individuals, each with their own story, their own inherent worth. Every interaction became an opportunity to embody the lessons she had learned. The media storm surrounding Melania Trump's visit eventually subsided, replaced by the relentless churn of the news cycle. But for Helena and her staff, the encounter remained a pivotal moment, a stark reminder of the importance of humility and the transformative power of second chances. In a world too often quick to judge, they had learned the profound value of choosing kindness. Life throws curveballs, doesn't it? Moments that force us to confront our own biases, our own shortcomings. This story, though set within the glittering confines of high fashion, serves as a powerful reminder. Every single person carries a unique story, a unique value. Approaching others with genuine respect and a compassionate heart isn't just good manners. It's the bedrock of human connection. We all stumble, we all make mistakes. But it's in owning those errors, in having the courage to apologize and to learn, that true growth lies. Think about it. How often do we make assumptions based on appearances, on fleeting impressions? Let this be a nudge to pause, to reconsider, to choose empathy over judgment. And if you found this story thought-provoking, if it sparked something within you, give it a like, share it with someone who might need to hear it, and subscribe for more narratives that explore the messy, beautiful complexities of being human. Because ultimately, we're all just walking each other home.